I could see the new version of myself so clearly. She was calmer. She did not panic when someone took too long to respond. She did not over-explain every decision. She did not shrink the moment something good began happening. She trusted herself. She rested without feeling guilty. She expected love without waiting for it to disappear. And for a few minutes, while I imagined being her, I could almost feel it. Then something inside me tightened. My chest became heavy. My mind started producing reasons it would never work. And without consciously deciding to, I returned to the old thoughts, the old reactions, the old identity. I assumed that meant I was failing. Maybe I did not believe strongly enough. Maybe I was not imagining correctly. Maybe I was still too negative.
But eventually, I began to understand something that changed the way I saw manifestation, healing, and identity. I was not simply trying to think a new thought. I was asking my body to release the version of me it had learned to protect. And to my nervous system, the new me did not feel exciting yet. She felt unfamiliar. And unfamiliar can feel unsafe.
For a long time, I treated the old version of myself like an enemy. I hated how much she worried, how quickly she assumed rejection, how she expected disappointment before anything had even happened, how she stayed quiet when she wanted to speak, how she prepared for loss in the middle of receiving something good. I kept asking, why am I still like this? Why do I keep going backwards? Why do I return to the same emotional place after promising myself that this time would be different? But I was asking the wrong question. The old me was not created because something was wrong with me. She was created through repetition, through moments when being alert mattered, through relationships where reading the room felt safer than relaxing, through experiences that taught me to prepare for disappointment before disappointment could surprise me. She learned that overthinking could prevent mistakes. She learned that pleasing people could reduce conflict. She learned that staying small could reduce criticism. She learned that expecting less could soften the pain of not receiving more. Those patterns did not appear randomly. At one point, they made sense.
The problem was that my life had started changing, but my body was still protecting an identity built for an earlier environment. And if you are trying to change your life, but your body keeps pulling you back toward what feels familiar, this is what we explore here on Heal Calmly. We regulate the body first, so belief finally works. Neville Goddard often spoke about states, not just thoughts, not just words, states. A state is more than something I say. It is the position from which I experience myself and the world. The state of being unwanted feels different in the body from the state of being loved. The state of lack creates different expectations from the state of enoughness. The state of being powerless causes me to interpret events differently from the state of being secure. Two people can experience the same silence and create two completely different meanings. One thinks, they must be busy. The other feels, I am being abandoned again. The external event is the same, but the state interpreting it is different. Neville understood that changing experience involved changing the state from which we lived. But here is the part I had overlooked. A state can become physically familiar. The body can learn the tension, posture, breathing pattern, emotional expectation, and protective behavior connected to an identity. So when I tried to assume a new state, I was not only challenging an old belief, I was challenging an entire pattern my nervous system had practiced. The old identity might have been painful, but it was predictable. The new identity might have represented freedom, but freedom did not yet feel familiar. I noticed this most clearly when something good happened. If someone treated me with consistency, part of me relaxed, but another part became suspicious. If an opportunity appeared, I felt excited. Then almost immediately, I started imagining everything that could go wrong. If I had a peaceful day, I did not always enjoy it. Sometimes I searched for a problem. I checked messages more often. I replayed conversations. I created urgency where no urgency existed. It was as though my body was saying, "This is too quiet. This is not how we survive. Do not relax yet." And that was when I understood why becoming the new version of myself could feel so difficult. The new me did not organize her life around the same alarms. She did not need to scan for danger constantly. She did not use anxiety to create a sense of control. She did not confuse emotional intensity with love. She did not use struggle as proof that she was trying. But if I stopped doing those things, who would I be? That question sounds philosophical, but sometimes the body experiences it as a threat. Because identity is not only a story about who I am, it is also a collection of responses that have become familiar enough to feel like me. The nervous system is constantly learning from repetition. It notices what tends to happen before conflict, what tends to happen before rejection, what tends to happen before something becomes unpredictable. It uses previous experience to prepare the body for what it expects next. That preparation can happen before I have consciously decided what anything means. So I might say, "I am safe," but my breathing becomes shallow. I might say, "I am loved," but my body braces when someone gets close. I might imagine success, but as the possibility begins to feel real, I procrastinate, withdraw, or suddenly become exhausted. I used to call that self-sabotage. Now I see that some of it was self-protection. Not protection from the new life itself, protection from uncertainty. Protection from becoming someone my body had not learned how to be. The body was not examining my vision board and deciding that I did not deserve it. It was responding to change with the information it already had. Known pain can feel safer than unknown peace because known pain comes with instructions. I know how to survive disappointment. I know how to function while overworking. I know how to prepare for rejection. But being supported, being visible, being loved without having to earn it, resting without punishment, receiving without immediately preparing to lose, those experiences may require the nervous system to learn something new. When I first discovered identity work, I tried to become the new version of myself all at once. I repeated statements that felt completely disconnected from my experience. I tried to suppress every fearful thought. I treated every uncomfortable emotion as evidence that I had fallen out of the state. And the harder I tried to force certainty, the more resistance I felt. Because underneath all that effort was another message. You are not allowed to feel what you feel. You must become someone else immediately. The current version of you is unacceptable. That did not create safety. It created more internal conflict. The body does not usually learn safety through pressure. It learns through repeated experiences that do not end in danger. A calm moment that remains calm. A boundary that does not destroy the relationship. A mistake that does not end in humiliation. A pause that does not cause everything to collapse. A
good experience that I allow myself to receive without immediately searching for the cost. That is how the new identity begins becoming believable. Not because I argued with the old one, but because I gave my body new evidence. This was one of the most healing realizations for me. I did not need to declare war on the old version of myself. I needed to understand her. She was not weak. She was tired. She was not ruining my future. She was repeating what had once reduced danger. She did not need to be humiliated into disappearing. She needed to learn that her job had changed. Sometimes I imagine speaking directly to that part of myself. I know why you prepare for the worst. I know why you do not trust peace yet. I know why receiving feels vulnerable. You helped me survive experiences I did not know how to process. But we are learning a different way now. That did more for me than forcing myself to pretend I had never been afraid. Healing did not mean erasing the old me. It meant allowing her to stop carrying responsibilities that no longer belonged to her. I stopped asking, how do I become her immediately? And I started asking, what is one small experience the new me would allow today? Maybe the new me would leave one message unanswered until she had time to respond thoughtfully. Maybe she would rest for 10 minutes without explaining why she had earned it. Maybe she would receive a compliment without minimizing it. Maybe she would say no without writing a paragraph. Maybe she would notice anxiety without allowing it to make every decision. These actions looked small, but they gave the body something imagination alone had not always provided: an experience. A moment of living differently and discovering that I was still safe afterward. That is how a new identity becomes embodied. Not through one dramatic declaration, through repetition. The new state becomes easier to access because I have visited it before, then visited it again, then stayed a little longer. Imagination introduces the possibility. Repetition builds familiarity. And safety helps the body stop treating the new version of me like a stranger.
When I notice myself returning to an old reaction, I try not to immediately correct or condemn it. I pause. I feel my feet against the floor. I allow my exhale to become slightly longer, and I ask 3 questions. First, what is my body expecting right now? Rejection? Conflict? Failure? Loss of control? Second, what is the old identity trying to protect me from? And third, what is one small piece of evidence I can offer that something different is possible? Not proof that nothing bad will ever happen, not a guarantee that life will always feel safe, just evidence that I have another response available. Sometimes that response is pausing before sending the anxious message. Sometimes it is letting someone support me. Sometimes it is staying present for a good moment instead of emotionally leaving it. This is not about performing the new identity perfectly. It is about making the new identity familiar enough that the body no longer needs to reject it automatically. Neville Goddard was right that states matter. The version of me I repeatedly occupy influences what I notice, what I expect, how I respond, and what feels possible. But changing states is not always a matter of repeating stronger words. Sometimes I am not struggling because I lack desire. Sometimes I am struggling because the old identity is still associated with survival. My body is not protecting the old me because she is the best version of me. It is protecting her because she is known.
And the answer is not to force the new self into existence while shaming everything that came before. The answer is to create enough safety, repetition, and lived evidence that the new version of me no longer feels like a threat. I do not have to destroy the old me. I can thank her, release her, and slowly teach my body we do not need to live there anymore. Because the new me is not unsafe. She is simply unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity can change.
If you are trying to change your life, but your body keeps pulling you back toward the version of you that feels familiar, subscribe to Heal Calmly. Here, we regulate the body first, so belief finally works. And if the nervous system can protect an old identity, what happens when success itself threatens that identity? That is what we are exploring next. Why success can feel unsafe to the brain.